if the claw didn't get hurt. Take a listen.
Oh, we would be going on. This series would have been a lot different. Talk about one of the best players in the league being out. Yet we were, inches, away from getting to the next round. So definitely, it's a what if on this. Factor matters. We didn't do enough. We didn't do enough to win, and it's the reason we're going home.
Antoine Walker joining us now. Twan, good morning. Is Paul George right that the Clippers would have made the finals if Kawhi didn't get hurt?
This is the problem, man. This is the thing that what people have with Paul George, and everybody has, a question or a question mark behind his name. It's because of comments like this. Instead of saying and complimenting his teammates on the run that they made over the last 7-8 games, they obviously put together a great series against Phoenix, but also to come back. They came back from 0-2 in the first 2 rounds, and Kawhi Leonard was a part of that. So it's no guarantee that you was going to beat the Phoenix Suns. And the Phoenix Suns played the first 2 games without Chris Paul. So it's no excuse for you to lose this series. And that's why everybody looks at Paul George as not necessarily a superstar. He is always an all-star, but he's not a superstar because you feel like you're making an excuse when he could have got it done. You think about game 2, he misses 2 free throws. He makes those 2 free throws, we may be looking at a different series. Obviously, in game 5, he played terrific, and we want to commend him for that, give him his flowers for it. But it was multiple times in the series where this series could have went the other way without Kawhi Leonard.
That's right.
Of course, it probably could have went differently with a Kawhi Leonard. That's obvious when you talk about a top 5 guy. And Kawhi was playing great basketball in the playoffs. But injuries are a part of the game. I think it's some injuries that we look at that you'd be like, wow, and you can kind of blame the players for. Sometimes the hamstrings and those type of things, we kind of blame it on guys not being in shape. But those are legitimate injuries that happen throughout the playoffs where a guy could mess his knee up and those things not go away. But this is the reason why people question Paul George is because he doesn't stand up and make himself seem accountable for these type of moments like this. They were good enough to win this series without Kawhi Leonard. Now, whether or not they can win the finals, that's another thing, but they could have won the series without him. So I don't necessarily agree with him. Having Kawhi would have got the series done because they started off series, 0-2 with Kawhi in the lineup. So it remains to be seen. So I think at that point you got to give the Suns their flowers and understand that, you beat a team that was better than you, and they got it done.
Right. I mean, to Antoine's point, they were down 0-2 in the first round with Kawhi, down 0-2 in the second round with Kawhi, and in the third round without Kawhi, they were down 0-2, even though Phoenix didn't have Chris Paul. Now, are the Clippers a better team with Kawhi Leonard? Obviously. Could that have changed this series? Obviously. But rinse, repeat that commentary for nearly any team in the playoffs so far this year. There are a lot of what-ifs surrounding injuries in these playoffs, and Antoine nailed it, which is, I'm not here to bang on Paul George because he was great in Game 5, and he has carried this team post-Kawhi's injury. But he wasn't very good in the game last night, and he wasn't very good after the game last night. And the fact of the matter is, even without Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers had every opportunity to win Game 2, and Paul George missed those free throws. And I know we look at the valley-oop as a great play by Phoenix. It's also a massive defensive gaffe by the Clippers. You got less than a second left.
Oh, here we
you
go.
put Boogie Cousins in the game. Boogie Cousins is shading the wrong side. He's just giving it. He's only there to prevent the lob, and he's angled the wrong way. And then in Game 4, you had 12 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter to tie or take the lead, and you went 0 for 12. You lost to a team that scored 84 points in the whole game. No team all year, regular season or postseason, lost a game where their opponent scored 84 or fewer except for that game. So you had plenty of opportunities. But Wilds, I actually think the Clippers should look to, if they're trying to say, what happened, and they should feel mostly good about how this playoff run went compared to last year. We looked at these 0-2 deficits as like a badge of honor because they overcame them. but there is a cost to everything. And because you were down 0-2 to the Mavs, Kawhi only has so many bullets in the chamber because he does have something wrong with his lower body physically. He used a lot of them in that epic Game 6 against Luka and a few more in Game 7. And then in that series, I mean, Kawhi's playing 40-plus minutes in 6 of the 7 games. That's not what he does. It's certainly not what he does in round 1. So it's not shocking that the injury bug bit him in round 2 when his history is he has to be really well managed. So, yes, they would have been better with Kawhi, but they also might have had Kawhi if they had played better earlier when he was still there, if that makes sense. And they could have won the series, to Antoine's point, if Paul George makes a few more plays in games 2 and 4.
Look, that's totally fair. And you were early on this where you were like, I think the Clippers are physically spent. If we can show how many minutes Paul George played, like this guy played more minutes than anybody else in the playoffs. And we saw it last night. We're like, oh, he's not necessarily playing bad, but he doesn't have that next gear. It just looks like he's out of gas. Antoine, I'm going to push back on you a little bit because of this. Earlier in this series, people started to say Ty Lue was like Bill Belichick. Like, what a strategist. Here's what I think Ty Lue needs to do if he's like Bill Belichick. He should sit Paul George down and show him some Bill Belichick press conferences and say, hey, you know what, Paul? You don't have to say anything. You can just grunt and just be like, I don't know, yep, we're on to next year. I'm on to training. Because Paul George gets penalized, I think unfairly, for just telling the truth or just giving a little bit too much, for being almost too friendly to the media. And what does he get back in return? Criticism. So he's saying what everybody thinks. I think it's actually a sign of a good teammate. It's like, yeah, Kawhi's awesome. I think we would have destroyed them if we had Kawhi, but we didn't. So I think it's just a little bit unfair, and maybe you have a different perspective. That, like, because Paul George is up there telling the truth and not giving us the pablum, non-answer that so many guys do, we kill him for it.
No, I think you got to look at, Kev, you got to look at this is the reason with the Clippers. They don't have a leader. And obviously we know Kawhi Leonard is not a terrific leader. And then now you go to Paul George, who's not a leader. And that's what this team is missing to probably getting them over the hump. We know they have just as much talent as any team in the league. They got guys that probably we didn't think it was going to be great this year, turned out to be great in big moments. When you think about Reggie Jackson, you think about Terrence Mann. Even if you think about Patrick Beverly, those guys play terrific playoff time. And you need that when you come to the playoffs when you're trying to make a deep run, different guys to step up. And they had them with those moments and those pieces together. You cannot take away from the injury. I'm not going to do that. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, they're a better team, but it's the reason why they're in the position that they're in. They don't have a leader. And T. Lue's a leader. He did the right things throughout the playoffs. He made the adjustments. He played small ball when he had to against Denver, put Jokic in a ton of pick and rolls, and they was able to exploit that without Jamal Murray. And then in the Phoenix series, he went back to a center. He went back to Zubac, and maybe Zubac getting hurt, maybe more important than Kawhi getting out, because now you had a legitimate big who was having a career playoff moment. So you had all those type of things happen. But, Brandon, you can speak to this, and you know that. They just didn't have that leader, a real leader in the locker room that they can really rally behind, and that's on and off the court.
Right. Yeah, it's a trickle-down effect, 100%. You talking about the leader. Starts with the coach. He sets the tempo, and then you need the guys in the locker room that's going to cascade down whatever the coach is saying. Like, here's the objective for the week or for this game, and you need one or two guys in that locker room that's going to echo that day after day after day. And then what typically happens is the guys start taking it to a whole nother level. You see these sub-cultures begin to come to life in the locker room. But staying on this leader thing, Twan, and you understand this. You have to work on your skill on the court, but then you also have to work on your skill in front of the media. And this is where Paul George went wrong. But we've all been in this situation before where we didn't just say the right thing. Because what you want the media talking about you in a good way. That's the goal. But it's damn near impossible, right? Because you're going to have bad moments on the court. You're going to have bad moments in front of the camera. So Paul George, what he should have said was this. When they asked him, well, if you had Kawhi Leonard, would you guys have advanced and gone to the finals? He should have said, look, it was a great series, great job to CP3 and those boys over there. It's been 10 years since they've been in the playoffs. They haven't been in the finals since 1990.